President Trump has cut back on the number of White House coronavirus task force briefings, accusing the media of twisting his words. One America's Hines spoke with Ron Kessler, a former Washington Post reporter, who says he would have been fired if he had behaved as many in the White House press corps do.
How would you account for the characterization by some mainstream media outlets of the president's press briefings being very highly criticized as inaccurate or misleading to the American public?
I think that's the hardest question to answer, but I think of it as the lemming instinct. These reporters all follow each other. They want to have approval from their colleagues, and the more hatred they can express, the more aggressive their questioning, the more dishonest their questioning.
And of course, you're speaking as a former Washington Post reporter yourself,
exactly.
right?
I'm coming to that. The more they are stars. And back when I was at the Washington Post during the Watergate period, I sat next to Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein. We would have been fired just like that if we had acted the way they do in these briefings, where you see this extremely aggressive tone, really an attack disguised as a question. And again, you see the contrast between the myths and the reality when you see Trump react to that. He keeps his cool. He doesn't have a meltdown, as they keep claiming. He doesn't engage in a big rant, as they keep claiming. He's very controlled.
You've made some very interesting observations about the president and his press briefings, and this relates to his previous history as a real estate mogul, I guess. Can you draw a parallel to those two lives and unpack that a little bit for us?
I think the most telling interview I did for this book, The Trump White House, is with Norma Forderer, who was his top aide for 26 years. She really knew him better than anyone on both the social and business side. And she said that there are two Donald Trumps. One is the one you see on TV, who makes these sometimes outrageous comments to get attention for his brand. And then there's the real Donald that only insiders know, who is quite the opposite. He listens, he's thoughtful, and you're seeing that in the White House briefings.
So which Trump do we see, do you suppose, in the press briefing room during these coronavirus briefings?
You know, I think for the first time, we're seeing publicly the real Donald Trump, the inside view of how he actually operates. He's melding the federal government with private industry. He's leading the charge. He's actually getting praise from Governor Cuomo, the New York Democrat governor, as well as Gavin Newsom, the California Democrat governor, as well as Maggie Haberman of the New York Times. Even though she writes these nasty stories, she said on CNN, and Trump played it on a briefing, that it was very effective for him to close down the flights and influx of people who were non-U.S. citizens from China and then from Europe. But of course, Biden and others denounced what Trump did as racist and xenophobic. Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi was urging people to go down to Chinatown and have a good time at the end of February. That's the contrast that we see. It's very hard to get that across in the media.
Ron Kessler, author of The Trump White House, Changing the Rules of the Game. Thank you for joining us on One America News. It's good to talk to you again. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, John. Thank you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.